Tisha, and this is Elderberry Creek Farms. Today I want to talk about why we're experimenting with straw bale gardening this year. We live in northwest Arkansas and the soil is pretty much clay and solid rock. This is our 4th year gardening in this area, and we've built up some raised beds. We've done a few other experiments. We've done a little bit of mint leader, and this year we decided that the way that our property is, we have 19 acres and it's all downhill. And we realized that we were gardening in an upper area, a middle area, a lower area, and we were just all over the place. And so this year we decided to just pick a zone and just really hunker down, plant a ton of perennials, start building up the soil, and slowly work ourselves up into raised beds. And shipping in tons of compost and dirt can be really expensive, so we decided to do straw bales and then continue to add into that and then slowly build up the bales. So this year, I think we bought about 120 wheat bales from a town about an hour away from us that my husband and some of the kids brought in. And then we've also decided to do some vertical gardening to kind of make the garden more pretty and just to be able to grow more things up and save as much space as we can. There's a few things that we've run into. One of the problems we've run into is I don't think we condition the straw bales as well as we should have. That was the first mistake that we made. The weather kept dropping down into the freezing temps, and so we had a lot of issues with that. And so in some places, I'll show you over here. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of wheat growing. So basically what I've been having the kids do is we just pick a bunch of the wheat. I don't want to pull it out because if I pull too hard, you can pull out too many of the roots. And then what I do is I just take the grass and I just use that to mulch my stuff. So then I'll just come back in here and mulch things and kind of just tuck things in. Or I'll tuck things in between the bales because we have our bales too deep. One thing we also realized is that the bales started to kind of like, we're on a slope, so everything started to slide downhill. So we put in the T-post and the wire, and we're going to leave this up for a couple of years, and then on our 7th year of gardening, we're going to take a sabbatical year of letting the land rest. And then that year what we'll do is we'll actually build permanent beds. And we'll probably make them up pretty high because I've got a lot of back issues and a lot of arthritis issues, and it'll make it a lot easier. So we've got over here some an Italian squash from Baker Creek. I don't even know how to say it, but I can look it up and put a link below. But it can be a summer squash, or if you wait longer, it'll turn into a winter squash. And that seems to grow really amazing and here in Arkansas. We've planted eggplant, Swiss chard. I've got tomatoes. I've got pole beans, tomatoes. On the end of each of our things, I put sunflowers. I've also put herbs throughout everything. So in here, I've got chamomile. I've planted beets. Basically, my theory this year is just to keep planting stuff. So I've got seeds continually starting every single week. And if something dies, I just plug something back in. It's like I'm just plugging. But pretty much I have all your basics. Tomatoes, hot peppers, bell peppers, chard, kale, cabbage. We planted a lot of sweet potatoes this year, which is the first year we've done that. We're planting Irish potatoes, watermelons, cantaloupes, summer squash, winter squash. Let me take you over here and just kind of show you an example of some of the other things that we're doing. So going up the vertical, these are my heirloom tomatoes, and they're indeterminate, so they're just going to keep growing. And I'm just tucking them back in and out and just kind of weaving them, and then I'll be clipping off the bottom leaves as things go. This is a summer squash that's just growing up, which I don't want to do, so I'm going to keep this guy down. And then I planted beans down here to have the beans grow up, so I'll have multiple different things going on here. And then over here, you can see all the tomatoes are doing amazing. I've got beets in here. I've got basil in here. I've got Swiss chard in here. This is dill. So I just plugged tons of different types of herbs. And I've noticed this year, since I'm like mixing up the herbs, I'm putting in flowers, I put in cosmos, I put in marigolds. There are so many more bugs in our garden this year than any other year. I'm noticing so many more pollinators, so many different type of butterflies. I've got nasturtium in here. I've got, here's some marigold right here. And then I'm just having all the vining stuff just grow down. So some of the stuff like the beets, it's not going to get a lot of sun. But as some of these other things die off or get harvested, then there's going to be more sun. So I just planted as thick and as deep as I could. One thing we are doing, we are fertilizing the bales. So we are putting fertilizer and compost and worm castings, and we're putting everything. We're just loading everything down. But you can just see how huge these plants are. This one is just going completely crazy. I had to cut off a bunch of the vines because it was just kind of taking over a little bit. But this is just in the one bale. There's kale over here. This is a watermelon right here. I planted flowers, so I told you I did 2 bales wide. And so in the cracks of the bales, I just planted a lot of different types of flowers and a lot of different types of herbs. This is cosmos. It's not a perennial, but it does self-seed really super easily. This is the area where all of our bell peppers are. The bell peppers for us in the straw bales, I'm kind of feeling like they're not doing the best. They're looking a lot better than they were. The hot peppers are looking really bad, but these are all bell peppers. Here, I'm going to pinch off the top of this basil, so then that way it'll keep producing. So here we just put 4 bales into a square, and then we left the center empty. And I threw down some seed potatoes in the middle. And then as the potatoes have been growing up, we've just been putting straw and soil, straw, compost, soil, and we've just been layering it up. So the seed potatoes are on the very bottom, which is about 18 inches. And then we're just layering it up. And then on the edges, I'm growing sweet potatoes, some herbs on the edge. We'll kind of see. The sweet potatoes have not been super happy. We'll kind of see how that goes. Looks like somebody threw in a rogue watermelon, rogue pepper plant right there. It's been kind of a fun year in the garden because now that we're on year 4 in the same spot, I've gotten a lot lax with how I'm placing things, and I'm just kind of letting the kids and my husband just go crazy and enjoy everything. So each year since we've been on this property, we just keep planting more and more and more fruit trees, more fruit bushes, more perennials. This is an Asian pear that we planted our first year here, and you can see this year it's just producing so much fruit. This is probably a 6 or 7 year old tree at this point. And then one thing that I do with all of our fruit trees is I try to plant certain herbs and things on the bottom, and just to create more diversity around the plants. So if you look down here, I started a bunch of strawberries from seed a couple of years ago, and now they're off shooting tons of runners. That's not a runner, that's a weed. But as you can see, there's a lot of runners, so I'm going to clip these runners and plant these in different places in the garden. And you can tell my garden's a mess right here, like it needs tons of weeding and stuff, but the strawberries have been doing amazing underneath this. I've got echinacea growing here, and I'm growing this to make tinctures and to make teas for medicinal purposes. And I've also planted a bunch of other medicinals underneath here. On the back side, over here, the large leaves, that's horseradish, and that's probably a 3-year-old horseradish growing right there. And as you can see too, we're in the beginning of June, and our strawberries are still producing right here. So the horseradish is doing good, the strawberries are doing good. This is a nectarine tree. We did plant a couple of peach trees this year, like little miniature peach trees, but this is a nectarine, and this is probably, we put this in the ground 4 years ago, and it's probably a 6 or 7 year old tree. But this nectarine right here is the same exact size and year as the nectarine right behind me, and it's so much smaller. I don't know where, why, or how that went wrong. I don't know if the water system, the root system, I'm not sure what happened. This is a fig that we planted this year, and you can already see, we didn't see it flower, so I'm not really sure how figs work. But once again, around the base of all of our fruit trees and shrubs, we plant things. So I've got bee balm, I've got pineapple sage, echinacea, My daughter planted a few things, so a couple things, I don't know what it is. I've got a cosmos over here. I think this is poppy. And then underneath this nectarine, as you can see, weeding is a constant chore. I've got my valerian root, which I'll be harvesting the root in the fall. I've got chicory growing for salads and stuff. I've got borage, green onions that I kind of let self-seed and propagate. Strawberries, echinacea, mushroom spawn. I just keep plugging things in. So probably in the next week or two, when I come in here and I weed, all the empty spots that I weeded, I'll probably take all of those little strawberry starts and I'll plug them into here and plant them into here. This is a pink lady apple we picked up at Walmart of all places. It was on sale for $11. So we ended up buying 4 apple trees for $11 each, and we decided, you know, it's kind of late in the season, but we're just going to go for it. So we planted the 4 apple trees right here in this area. So underneath all the apple trees, I put parsley, lavender, sunflowers, borage. We planted 4 figs this year. So I just, like I showed you over there, I planted just a bunch of different herbs and medicinals, things. Whatever I could find is what I planted, or whatever seeds I started is what I planted. It's just kind of, I guess this year our theme is having fun and just planting thick and just planting as many things as we can get into the ground and watering it and loving it and having fun with it. And the best times I think our family has are hanging out, spending time in the garden together. So I hope your guys' garden is going just as well. And I hope that you just are willing to try new things and experiment and see what works, because what works on my property doesn't work for my friends down the road that live a mile away or even across the street. So you just have to figure out what works for you, what you guys like to eat, what you like to do, how much time you want to spend in the garden, and then just go for it and enjoy it and have lots of fun. So until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.